Ubizo, Lungibize Kale, Nyokalela Banina, Pibola, Milipinda Pinde, Dabe. Ngithi nyawo zami ngibeleze kulomhlaba nemsini. Ngifundana noxolo ey'nganweni. Kukhaliswa emaye emzini kamkhulu.
Sawubona to you, sawubona to yours. From one great spirit to another. Igama lami uThulani Malevu. Welcome to Ubizo Daily. Today we expose a machine so sophisticated that many consume its product daily without even realizing that they are being programmed. Today we ask, why is Alkebulan, also known as Africa, so often shown through one narrow lens? Poverty, war, disease, corruption, disaster, chaos. Why do so millions know more about African suffering than African innovation? And why are our minerals extracted while our dignity is being minimized? Why are our stories constantly filtered through external voices? Today, we speak about narrative engineering and how perception can become a weapon. We can't have this conversation without this. Whoever controls the story controls the reality. You see, the one thing I've come to understand is that empires understood, and they still do understand, the power of storytelling. If you can define how a people are perceived, you most definitely can influence how they are treated. Investors hesitate, tourists fear, citizens internalize inferiority, governments justify intervention, corporations justify extraction, and ordinary people around the world begin seeing a continent through stereotypes instead of complexity. And this is how narrative becomes power. Let's talk about selective storytelling. Let's be honest, great spirit. Alkebulan has real challenges. Corruption exists, conflict exists, poverty exists. Those realities do matter. But why is complexity often removed? Why are Alkebulan tech hubs ignored? Why is our agricultural innovation underreported? Why is scientific breakthroughs minimized whenever they come from this beautiful mother continent of ours? And why is cultural brilliance overlooked? Youth entrepreneurship buried? Because there's one-dimensional narrative that serves specific interest. Broken places appear easier to dominate. Let's talk about the economics of bad news. Even though I didn't study economics in school, but I understand that fear sells. Disaster attracts clicks. Outrage drives traffic. Media companies often optimize for emotional reaction, and global audiences often consume simplistic stories. And thus this creates an incentive structure. The more chaotic Alkebulan Africa appears, the more profitable certain narratives become. And this does not mean every journalist out there is malicious. It just simply means often the system rewards distortion, not often, well, almost all the time. It rewards distortion, and we must understand systems. And that is why we can't continue this conversation without speaking about internalized narrative damage. Of course, this becomes dangerous. How so? When Alkebulan, children, sons and daughters, Africans, as we are called nowadays, begin repeating these narratives about themselves. We can't build. We are always behind. We are naturally corrupt. We can't govern ourselves. And this is psychological warfare completing its cycle, because external propaganda becomes internal belief, and internal belief limits action. I refuse often when somebody say maybe we've got a meeting or to do of sort where we are to meet at a specific time, and then somebody says, oops, so I'm late, African time. I'm just like, no, baby. No, don't do that. Let's proceed and have a word about complexity being truth. Truth requires complexity. Africa contains extraordinary innovation and painful challenges. Of course, yes, I agree. Beauty and corruption, progress and injustice, ancient wisdom and modern contradictions. I'll take that. That complexity must be protected. And in us doing so, we must also reject propaganda and reject also romanticized fantasies too. We must be able to tell the full truth, nothing but the truth, not selective truth, the full truth. Because when we tell the truth, we own the narrative. This generation must build. It must build independent film studios. It must build independent newsrooms, documentaries, publishing houses, podcasts, music labels, educational media platforms. We must become owners of narrative infrastructure, Great Spirit. Because if others continue telling our stories without us, distortion will continue. And generations unborn deserve truthful mirrors, that which we should ought to be. So today ask yourself, whose stories about Alkebulan, about Africa, have shaped your imagination, and how much of your self-perception was inherited from distorted narratives? Because a people who don't control their story often become characters in somebody else's agenda. And the future